Yeah, Bob, like we said before, some of these people that are supporting this petition live just beyond this park, and this is where that celebration of life for Zane James was happening that night, August 2nd. It turned violent. Everyone watched it from their yard.
I understand that.
This is my neighborhood.
I understand that. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm asking why.
It's one thing to watch protesters on the news.
Black in a white neighborhood.
It's another to see them in your yard.
Because I wasn't joining in, I got called horrible things.
They had absolutely no business taking that kind of a group into a residential area.
On August 2nd, protesters moved from the park down Stephen Wall Street. His wife took this picture watching from inside their house.
When I came out of my front door and I observed her, and keep in mind, I didn't know who she was.
Wall says he watched Tally Bruce, councilwoman for Cottonwood Heights City, in the faces of their police officers, taking videos and pictures of what was happening. Protesters were asked to stay to the sidewalks, but Wall says they would not comply with police. Bruce claims she was punched by an officer in the throat.
They give a directive and an order, and she does nothing to assist in getting these people to comply with that.
Wall and others have created a petition calling for Bruce's resignation. Bruce responded on Facebook saying, "I have no intention of stepping down or backing down." Her former campaign manager says Bruce is a voice for those who do not have one in the community.
All they're asking for is an opportunity to air their grievances and to have the same relationship with the police that they have.
Something Wall doesn't have an issue with, just that in his eyes, Bruce seems to be encouraging the violence.
We'll listen. We may not agree, but we can have a discourse.
I'm not here for contention.
Especially when it's in their own yard.
She's taking her own personal vendettas and hurting our city.
Now, Wall says they have nearly 2,000 signatures for that petition. Live in Cottonwood Heights, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thank you, Aaron. BYU students, meantime, are on campus getting ready to start class on Monday. But not everybody is taking the mask guidelines there seriously. Fox 13's Adam Herbetz is live at BYU now with a look at how Provo's new mask mandate could affect life on campus. Adam.
Yeah, Amy, earlier this week, some students at BYU were already posting videos online upset with some of the parties they have seen with no social distancing and no masks. They say they like BYU's mask policy, but they are concerned with enforcement. And now that Provo has its own mask mandate in effect, they want to know if that will change anything. Freshman year at a new school. Students at BYU are finally out of the house on their own, but there are still rules.
It's just gonna be a lot harder to see people smile.
BYU's really been like pleading with the students, like, please just wear your masks.
Yeah.
And I know none of us, I don't know anybody that wants to go back online.
So far, the results have been mixed.
I honestly think it's about 50-50.
Some people taking masks seriously, others maybe giving in to peer pressure, trying to make new friends.
It's kind of like silly if you're the only one in the entire group wearing it.
Some people are wearing them, which is good, but some people are like not doing anything at all to stay safe.
You know, BYU's, we're part of Provo. We want to be good neighbors. Even though we're a private institution, we do like to comply with local ordinances.
According to campus police, there have been multiple large gatherings that they've had to break up. How big are these parties?
Pretty big. They're pretty big. The parties are like huge. There's a lot of people there.
This was before the city of Provo passed its mask mandate, but it still did not comply with the school's policy.
I don't think it's the police. I don't think it's the police department's job to enforce that. I think a mandate would be good.
And even though BYU PD agrees, the university says administrators will, which could mean handing out suspensions. According to a spokesperson for BYU, to her knowledge, nobody has had their on-campus privileges restricted, at least not yet. If anybody has a complaint, they should be going to the Dean of Students' office. We're live in Provo. Adam Herbetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, as you can see from Adam's live shot, the sun is shining brightly, but we're headed for a
bit of a dip in the temperatures, Dina.
Yes, finally, at least by Monday, it will be much cooler around here. But for much of the weekend, it's still going to be kind of the same, hot, smoky, and hazy, but change definitely is coming. 92 degrees, you just saw Adam out there. It's pretty warm still. Northwest winds at 10 miles per hour. We've had some gusts as well. So that's making the evening, or as we go into the evening, it should feel a little bit more comfortable, getting a little bit of a light breeze. 89 in Price, 98 in Green River, and 103 in St. George. Our satellite imagery today, we've got a little bit of shower activity now across southeastern Utah, and some showers moving into northwestern Utah as well, into Box Elder County in about the next hour or two. So keep your eye out for that. And going into the weekend here, chance for high elevation pop-up thunderstorms, but not much widespread rain in our forecast at all. Our evening planner going into the night here on Friday. Temperatures dropping into the 90s, 80s, and 70s for some of the evening. Should be pretty pleasant and a light breeze around. Even in southern Utah, a little bit warm in the evening hours, but there's a bit of a breeze, so it'll be comfortable. Now, as Bob was mentioning, big changes in the forecast and a big cool down. All that straight ahead.
All right, Dina, thank you. A new tool on Realtor.com will give home buyers confidence, but sellers will likely feel more stressed. Coming up, how new information on listings could help protect your investments.
Also, a major demonstration in our nation's capital and in Salt Lake City for racial equality. Why people brave the crowds. Join the march today. We're back in 60 seconds. Welcome back. Tens of thousands of people from around the country are marching in Washington, D.C. today. It was 57 years ago today that Martin Luther King led his March for Civil Rights. Joe St. George spoke with those who felt they needed to be there even during a pandemic.
No justice, no peace.
Marchers are here.
I'm from Houston, Texas.
From
New Jersey.
all over.
I'm from Phoenix, Arizona.
To be a part of history.
It does feel like the 60s.
57 years after Martin Luther King held his march on Washington, men and women by the tens of thousands are marching here again.
I have a nice little scar from it. Has 7 stitches.
Andre Miller is here from Portland, Oregon. His scar is still healing from being hit with a tear gas canister there during a recent protest. It's not that, though, bringing him to D.C. It's his son.
My kids get called the N-word. We want like a suspension or something.
His 14-year-old son faces racism in school. Andre Jr. telling us today's speakers are motivating him to keep fighting.
And just to hear their message is just so inspiring.
Today's events taking place in the shadow of the Martin Luther King Memorial. We found Martin Luther King III speaking to a small crowd about how his dad would be so proud.
The only way we're going to ever resolve these issues is we have to do it together.
But it's not just black men coming here to the National Mall in D.C. today. Men and women of all races here too, including moms.
It's too much injustice.
Beth Wagner is multiracial. Her sons are black.
I'm always at fear that, they could just be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Many people we met, though, want today to not be an end, but a beginning, telling us too many lives have been lost.
Thinking about what my ancestors fought for and what they had to do for me to get freedom and what I'm still going through to this day.
In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
And today in Salt Lake City, hundreds of people also marched from the state capitol to the Salt Lake City County building, demanding social justice. Organizers set the tone immediately by proclaiming this a peaceful event and also proclaim this is not just a moment in time, but a movement to make this nation better for everyone.
Patriotism is like, how can I make this place better? Because it is. I do love this country, right? And I just want to just make it better. Individually, we are strong. Individually, everybody's talented. But together, we're just going to go a lot further and a lot faster.
And Emmanuel Vasquez, who you just heard from there, is a college student and says these sentiments are spreading rapidly among other young adults.
The Utah Jazz will resume their playoff push on Sunday in Game 6 against the Denver Nuggets. Players, coaches, and team executives met last night to discuss the future of the NBA bubble. Commissioner Adam Silver says they decided to continue the season after the league and players negotiated the creation of a, quote, social justice coalition that will focus on a broad range of issues. Jazz guard Donovan Mitchell announced he will donate money from his release or from the release of his new shoe to Jacob Blake's children.
My new shoe had been scheduled to drop this week, but in light of all the senseless and tragic events in the shooting of Jacob Blake, I reached out to Adidas to see how we together could partner up and help support any way possible.
He will donate $45,000 of the money raised from the sale of the Dawn Issue 2. Adidas will match the donation for a total of $90,000. It'll all go toward the education of Jacob Blake's children. The major stock averages closed up today. At the end of trading, the Dow had gained 162 points to close at 28,854. The Nasdaq posted its 40th record close of the year by adding 70 points, and the S&P notched its 6th record close by tacking on 23.
The fatal police shooting of a man outside his Mill Creek home is ruled justified. Investigators explain the decision and the dangers that police officers faced in this situation.
And Realtor.com has a new feature that could help you avoid a risk or that could hurt your home's value. Still ahead, we'll take a look.
Live from Fox 13 Studios, this is Fox 13's Live at 5.
Buying a home may be the biggest investment you ever make, and like all investments, it comes with risk.
As of this week, the biggest real estate website in the country has put a number to the common risk of flooding. Fox 13's Max Roth joins us with a look. Max.
Yeah, thanks, Amy and Bob. You know, Realtor.com is the official site for the National Association of Realtors. For home buyers, this new feature will be popular. For home sellers, it depends on what it says about your house.
For America's second driest state, Utah has its share of flooding. It can happen in downtown Salt Lake City, and in residential St. George. And if it's your residence, normal homeowners insurance doesn't cover flooding from the outside. So Realtor.com has a new feature. Look up homes in St. George and you can see a map. Click on flood at the top and the shading shows flood zones as mapped by FEMA. And then when you look at a home, like this one in northern Utah, you see a flood factor score. It's a scale of 1 to 10. This home is a 1 out of 10, a low risk. This other home, not far away, has a medium risk, 5 out of 10. Realtor.com's article introducing the feature says homes outside of FEMA high-risk flood zones appreciated faster than homes inside those zones between 2012 and 2017. But they say it's not always a deal breaker. A majority of buyers, 55%, would still buy a home even if they knew it was in a flood zone. But roughly 4 in 10 buyers would expect some kind of discount on the home.
So if you are thinking about buying a home in an area where there may be flooding, remember to price flood insurance. Now, they don't have this flood factor on every home, mostly on homes in areas where you might think there would be flooding. And the feature seems a bit glitchy. It wasn't appearing on all of our computers here in the newsroom. Hopefully, they work those things out because it is good to see if you're in the market. Live in the newsroom, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Max, thank you. And speaking of flooding, Laura is weakening as it moves toward the mid-Atlantic, but only after leaving a trail of death and destruction in its wake. The storm killed at least 6 people after making landfall in Louisiana and left behind extensive damage and destroyed homes. Now the storm is making its way through Arkansas and Mississippi, bringing heavy rain, strong winds, and tornadoes hundreds of miles inland. Miles away, people are picking up the pieces in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
We boarded, all this side that faces the ocean side, and then we put a board over each door.
We still have some requests for extraction on some people that, have stayed and been anticipating on staying. Some are elderly, some didn't have a way out.
Laura was the 7th named storm to strike the U.S. this year and the most powerful to hit Louisiana. It is expected to exit the East Coast on Sunday. Not a minute too soon.
The power of those storms is really something. It was really something to watch that start to roll in and see its path.
Yeah,
Glad it wasn't worse.